I am horrified. I'm horrified by the stupidity of my fellow man. I'm horrified that, human beings, rather than playing Super Mario Brothers, want to sit and passively watch someone else play Super Mario Brothers while they make no effort to entertain the audience or talk about anything meaningful. And it is what people watch on Twitch, the most seen channels, the most popular, the most common content. It's horrifying to me. And even if I were bedridden ill, even if I were on, heavy psychiatric medications and sedatives, I cannot imagine being stupid enough to enjoy what the average member of the Twitch audience appreciates as an art form around here. And one of the comments I used to get all the time on YouNow, because I would do 2 hours on YouNow, and I would be on the whole time. It would be a 2-hour performance, unlike this interview, right? But I'd be on the whole time. I'd get a question from the audience. I'd say, great question. Now here's a 20-minute monologue in response to your question. Somebody asked me to criticize something. I launch into a critique where I'm really, I am listening and responding to the audience, but it's really this intense, if anything, kind of over-the-top communication. It's this high-energy performance for 2 hours solid. And, what I see on Twitch, it's like, the Pied Piper leading a bunch of sleepwalkers. You know what I mean? I just can't believe it. What the broadcasters themselves are doing is mind-numbingly stupid. And I'm assuming, it relates to the drug culture. I think there are a lot of people in the audience who are smoking marijuana or using other drugs who just want to have their minds numbed. So yeah, what could be done with live streaming technology, I regard as tremendously positive, tremendously meaningful. Even just, shout out to Onlyfans, shout out to all those platforms. It is more meaningful for some 18-year-old guy to have a crush on a girl and then be able to actually message her and have her talk to him and answer his questions. That is more meaningful than just having a magazine with this glittering image, sort of, perfectly posed, photoshopped image of a beauty icon. Yes, even pornography today, the social media model of pornography, the degree of interaction and so on, he will learn to regard that woman as a human being. Even if she's just sitting there talking about how she grew up and went to school and what she's doing and going food shopping, because that's a lot of this content. It's like beautiful women just talking about their normal lives. At least he'll learn to regard her as a normal person and not an icon, not a statue or something. You know what I mean? There's something to that. But now when you turn to the political sphere, or you turn to the educational sphere, wow, there's so much potential here. And let me say, that potential cuts both ways. There was a university professor in England, and people worshiped this guy as a genius. The minute he came on YouTube, everyone knew he was a fucking moron. I've met that guy in person, and I was like, wow, the emperor has no clothes. And that happens every day. There's another guy who's a famous, I could drop names here. Nobody would know these. These are all people with PhDs and appointments in famous universities. There's another guy who was a professor of Chinese linguistics, especially like the language history of China. Total nutcase. The moment he made a YouTube video, moment he comes on and starts doing live stream or Q&A, wow, he's exposed. People who even things like language fluency, people who claim to be fluent in a language and they come on a live stream and you see they can barely speak it at all. Sure, that's like the negative side, like taking these people from being statues and pulling them down to earth and making them seem human, all too human, right? But on the other hand, anyone you've ever respected now, oh yeah, like this guy, sure. This is a book written by a professor in Israel named Yuri Pines, right? I've talked to this guy, right? He wrote this book. He's written some academic articles. I have some respect. I don't worship him. I have some respect. I can send him an email. I can talk to him. You can, again, like OnlyFans, intellectuals, educators, the nature of education itself can be profoundly transformed for the better by Twitch, by YouNow, by OnlyFans, by any of these things. Your relationship to someone like a professor, someone teaching you something, can be so much more meaningful. The questions you can ask and the answers you can get, and it's so much better than what a lecture used to be in the past or a VHS video cassette. It is such a huge advancement for humanity. If you don't believe me, what do you think it was like being deaf and communicating through sign language only in the year 1950. What do you think it was like if the only language you could understand was Cambodian in 1980? Now all these people can come on the internet and, for sign language, it's a visual form, like whether it's YouTube videos or Twitch, they can communicate through sign language all over the world in a way that was totally impossible before, right? People speaking a language like Cambodian, their tiny audience can come on and really have an intellectually rewarding life and learn about history and politics or whatever they want to. They can learn about rap music. They can learn about anything, The educational potential for this, it's so clear when you talk about a little silo, a little tiny community like that. But each and every one of us is part of some kind of tiny community. Right? Me and my girlfriend, I think we're the only vegans in this apartment building. Whatever it is, you are part of a minority that's just as special and just as isolated as the Cambodians living in California. You may not realize it yet, but social media and live streaming and even messaging platforms like Onlyfans and Snapchat and Instagram, people perceive them as the lowest of the low. People, because of the association with pornography and video games and shallowness, and really in a lot of ways I'm out here advocating for them, saying no, this is not the lowest of the low. Precisely the things we worship as high culture in many ways, those are the lowest of the low. Paying $50,000 so you can sit in silence in a university lecture theater and then at the end raise your hand, that to me is the lowest of the low, and I think social media poses a profound challenge to that, and a big paradigm shift for our whole society.
I wonder if it's a topic you're interested in, if you thought about sort of this, because it's very new, right? It's been around for a few years, but it's only now becoming this really big thing, and there's all these sort of communities forming, and there's this odd dynamic where it's like you've got this one guy or girl at the top of this sort of social hierarchy, and they have all the power and control, and it can create some very bizarre dynamics that are sort of new. I wonder if you've thought about this, if it's interesting to you, like sort of the world of streaming and the what sort of new and odd things that come up through streaming and the communities that come out of it.
Look, for me, the irony is that this is a technology that seems to be lost from the distant past of 2016. Like, from my perspective, things were better on YouNow in 2016 or 2017 than they are today on Twitch in 2020. I love what YouNow used to be, what live streaming used to be. And it seems inevitable that technologically something like that will be created again. Like one of the things I pointed out, technologically, all the pornography sites already have everything you need to really talk about politics. They're just not being used for politics. Again, OnlyFans is an example of that. Like technologically, OnlyFans or the live chat, website stuff, all of them have all the technology you need to have a really meaningful discussion about politics or philosophy. But, they're being used by strippers and so on and so forth, because obviously there's more money in that. But, for those of us who aren't motivated by money, I think it's this fundamentally wonderful thing. Instead of sitting down in a coffee shop and talking to two people, your show is a great example of this. In general, the Truth Crab podcast, a lot of your shows, it's you sitting down and talking to one person or two people or six people as if you're in a coffee shop, but a couple hundred people can also join in and benefit from it. And if you want to, you can spin it off as a filmmaker and edit out the segment. No, I think it's really a fundamentally wonderful, fundamentally really, really positive thing. And in that sense, like for me as a creator, I see almost nothing negative about it. Okay. And now I flip the coin and talk about what's on the other side.